Unfortunately, life is just always going to throw us curveballs. It's just the way it is, politically, environmentally, economically, socially, whatever it may be. It's always going to be there. We want to also remember that the body is intricately designed to be able to handle stress. And all that stress means is that there's an imbalance to a balanced system. That's it. It's not negative. Hunger is a stress. Being cold is a stress. Anytime that there is a change to a steady state, what we call homeostasis, is called stress. That's all it is.
This is StRest. I'm Kerstin Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest. Dr. Eva Selhub brings over 2 decades of experience, including her roles as an instructor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and former medical director at the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine in Massachusetts General Hospital. Her work centers on resilience, emotional balance, and holistic well-being, topics that deeply resonate with you, me, and everybody these days. We talk stress, the good and the bad. We talk mindfulness shower. What is that and why do you need to do it absolutely today? We talk nutrition and the number one thing that you can do to be happier in life. That's all happening right now with Dr. Eva Selhub. Hey, quick break. Are you feeling your age a little bit? Joints or maybe brittle hair or face, skin? One supplement can address all of that. It's collagen. And my favorite by far is Ancient Nutrition. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body, so we need it. And Ancient Nutrition is my favorite because it's made from real quality ingredients that I know that I can trust. In just 2 scoops of their multi-collagen protein, you are getting 20 grams of protein to help support your hair, your skin, your nails, your joints. And as an added bonus, you're also getting vitamin C and probiotics. That's for gut and digestive health support. It's the perfect addition to any beverage. You can put it in your shake and things like that, but also overnight oats, baked goods. But I put the unflavored multi-collagen protein in my black coffee every single morning. It's perfect because it mixes really easily and it's virtually tasteless. I especially also love their strawberry lemonade because it's very super refreshing in the summer, but whatever, you need to get your collagen. Multi-collagen protein is more than just collagen. It's real results that you can see and feel from ingredients that you can trust. That's why I'm talking about it. Right now, you can get 25% off. You go to ancientnutrition.com and put in the code STRESSED25. That's STREST 25. STRESSED25 at ancientnutrition.com. And that's going to get you 25% off site-wide. Make sure you grab my favorite for the dark coffee, which is your multi-collagen protein, but then also try something else as well. You're going to love it. That's STRESSED25 for 25% off. Get your collagen. Dr. Selhub, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Your work is exactly what this audience needs. Could you dive in just a little bit about who you are and how you got here?
Sure. So I am a physician, a medical doctor, not a psychiatrist, as many people would like to think, because I work a lot with the mind and psychology and emotions. However, I'm actually a physical medicine doctor. Started out in 1997 doing that as a primary care doctor, while at the same time also working at the Mind-Body Medical Institute with Herb Benson, which was at Harvard, where we taught meditation, spirituality, nutrition, exercise, psychological work that needs to be done, like cognitive behavioral therapy, all those things that we could teach our patients to do that could help them heal with or without medications or procedures. So I started doing that in 1997, became the medical director there, and really started diving into understanding better stress. What was stress all about? Stress physiology. How was it beneficial? How was it hurtful? What was this really all about? Became my field of expertise, which is understanding what we call the clinical application of stress physiology, which sounds like a really big way of just basically saying how we can use stress so it doesn't use us. And I went through my own trials and tribulations, lots of suffering, which led me there. Obviously, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. So I started doing more and more work on this, not just for to help my patients, but to help myself. And discovering that at the center, the core of our healing was really love. Self-love, spiritual love, social love, I call it the love pyramid. And that, all these wisdom traditions have been talking about this for thousands of years. And we have a problem talking about it. We don't talk about it in medicine for sure, and certainly not in the corporate environment. But ultimately, what allows that response to be tethered and what allows us not to get caught up in stress in a negative way and be able to use it in a positive way, it's actually love.
When you get caught in this negative thinking, because I do it all the time, and I think that especially as perimenopausal and menopausal women, because we have the hormone aspect, you can just wake up negative and stay negative, or something can happen and you can stay negative, and you can be under actual stress. I mean, this is a stressful time of life for a lot of people, but how do you use what you do, love and spirituality, to break that and have us kind of look on the bright side a little bit more?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I really wanted to emphasize to the listeners, this is not about don't worry, be happy. It's not that simple. Being a postmenopausal woman myself and having, I've been doing this work for a long time and I still have problems, right? I still, when I actually had a massive, physiological collapse, if you will, between menopause, my father being in the hospital 24/7, being a caregiver, if you will, working hard, starting to not sleep well, even though I was meditating and even though I was exercising and even though I was eating super healthy, my body still crashed. So, because of all the different physiological changes it was going through, mostly postmenopausal, losing the estrogen that was protecting me. And that put my body into what we call a neuroendocrine-immune dysregulation, so that the nervous system, the immune system, and the endocrine system, which all work together in the stress response, just became dysregulated. And so it didn't matter, that I was exercising. In fact, that was actually hurting me because it was putting more stress on the system. So it's important to understand that we have this beautifully designed system, our mind body system, that is connected to our emotions and connected to our immune system and the way we eat and the way we think and the way we sleep and all the different facets. And it's not just like, okay, don't worry and just be happy. That does help, of course. But what I found in the way out of it was, one, that my mental attitude did make a big difference in how my hormones responded. So the more negative I was, the more stress it put on my body and the more dysregulated my system would be. So what I would do is I would find little, what I call puffs of appreciation, to try to just kind of flip the switch and just say, okay, I know that I'm in a negative place. I know that I don't want to be. I don't have really control over it, and it's not my fault, which is self-compassion. So that's where love comes in, a lot of self-compassion. And I said, well, what can I be grateful for? And let me switch it. Let me just find one little nugget of gratitude, one little nugget of appreciation. And what that does is it reduces that cortisol a little bit, reduces the noradrenaline a little bit. So it takes the pressure off that stress response and we start beginning getting some wiggle room, some bounce back. Right. So that's just one little example. And then, of course, there's nutrition and supplements and all the different things that can support that immune system, that can support that neuroendocrine system. And then there's the different things we can do, like make sure we're getting more sleep and find better sleep hygiene. So it's, again, there's so many different things that are involved, but our ability to love ourselves is primary, because
That's
otherwise
so
none of
true.
that stuff can happen.
I love puffs of appreciation. In my second book, I call them pockets of happy.
I love it.
Even if it's all bad around you, it seems like there can be pockets of happy
That's
that
right.
you can find. But that's hard. It really is, especially when you're going through some really big trials. I think that is a little, and I always tell people you should never have to white knuckle through anything, but that might be a moment where you have to kind of hold on and do it.
Yeah, it's not easy, and oftentimes you don't want to. Like, the brain does not want to. It's not actually, to the brain, if you're dealing with a challenge that you don't see an outcome to, right? There's to the brain doesn't distinguish between real or imagined. It's just a threat is a threat is a threat. Now, it's either a threat that I can manage or stress that I can manage, and the brain be like, okay, whatever, I'll handle it. Or it's a perceived threat that I cannot manage, in which case it goes into fight or flight or fight or freeze because it thinks it's being chased by a lion. It doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. If it's a challenge or a stress or a threat that I don't perceive I have the resources to handle, my brain will perceive it as fight or flight. So that stress response and all the physiological changes that go along with it and the negative emotions that go along with it will be hyperactivated. So if I can just stop that for 1 second, it's going to help. It's remembering that, okay, I'm not forcing myself to be happy. I'm making an attempt to change my physiological state. Comes less pressure. So I'm just changing my physiological state. So I'm going to focus on, oh, look how pretty those leaves are. Meanwhile, like the other side of my head goes, I hate the leaves. But they're so pretty. Oh, I hate the leaves. And that's okay too. But again, just taking that moment to be mindful, to be present, to smell the flowers or to look up at the sky, even just for a second, will start shifting the dynamics of that physiological response.
I often tell people, our brains are being rewired all the time by electronics and unnatural light forced through our homes and all of that. And you can kind of trick your brain at times. I do it with people before they go to bed. Honestly, telling yourself, okay, I know, okay, brain, you got all these worries. You know what? We're just going to set them aside. We're going to give them to God. We're going to set them aside. Maybe we'll write them down and then you can pick them up again tomorrow morning, kind of like you're talking to a toddler. And I feel like what you're saying is very similar to that. For instance, today it's rainy and dreary. That impacts me a lot. So other stressors in my life are going on. Plus now it's gray outside and I can be miserable, but I can also look outside the window and go, look how beautiful the rain is on the leaves. And most of my brain doesn't believe it, but still saying that, like you said, gives you just a little bit of a release and that bounce back.
That's right. And you say what I say in that like the form of resilience is most people call it grit, which grit does play a role in resilience, but not all the way because it doesn't cover this piece of it, right? Which is where is the opportunity? And I call it the opportunity mindset. So I'm just like and it's for me, what's like when it's rain, and I don't know why I live in New England because it's, rains and it's all the time and misty. And it's like this haze comes down over me with that seasonal affective experience.
Yeah, me too.
And I looked, I'm like, okay. And literally physically, I feel, oh. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I have an opportunity to get a lot of stuff done in the house. So
Right.
now I'm not going to spend as much time outside, which I normally would. And then I wouldn't do all the things that I actually do need to actually address. And now I will. So it's finding the nuggets of also opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Before we go forward, I want to go back to something that you said that I think is important. You mentioned when you were going through all of this, exercise was actually harmful. Tell me about that. Because we've touched on that on this podcast before, because exercise is a form of stress. It can be a good stress, but it can also not be a good stress.
Well, so this is the thing. This is why getting to know yourself and getting to know where your body is, which is really important. So there's in times in my life where exercise was exactly what I needed. I remember in my 20s, I had a big breakup. I was depressed, and I said I'm going to get over this depression, and I exercised like 2 hours a day, or whatever. I just almost became a bodybuilder, if you will. And my mother said to me, she said, "Why are you exercising so much?" And I said, "It's either this or Prozac."
Yeah, right.
And there are studies that it's just as effective as Prozac. It raises endorphins and serotonin and all those sorts of things. And for that reason, it was very helpful. When your body is in burnout or is burning out, and not necessarily you're psychologically burnt out, but physically burnt out, where you have adrenal fatigue, more exercise can actually deplete you further and make you feel worse. So when you have, like I said, a postmenopausal neuroendocrine dysregulation, which many women have, where all of a sudden you're gaining weight and all of a sudden, you're like, this is not my body. And you're tired and you're not sleeping well. Over exercising. And this is why a lot of people recommend, people love their HIIT exercises, but doing HIIT postmenopausally is not always the best thing for the body, as opposed to just doing some weightlifting and resistance training and lowering down that intensity. So that intensity can actually create more stress on a system that is stressed and doesn't have wiggle room. And so in order to do that, you have to rebuild the wiggle room. So that's why stress can be more detrimental sometimes. I mean, exercise can be more detrimental sometimes. It just really depends where your system is.
How do we know if we have adrenal fatigue?
Well, that would be interesting. There's a lot of different signs of adrenal fatigue. One is that you're plain tired. Okay. I mean, you feel fatigued, and without the adrenaline, you have no energy. So, one of the things I ask people to do, I invite people to do, is to try to figure out whether your energy is true or whether it's fake. And how do we do that? We do a little meditation.
Oh, I was going to say cut the caffeine.
You can cut the caffeine, but you want to do that slowly, obviously, because we want to get the withdrawal from that. But again, if you wake up feeling tired, you're tired, right? They say, "Oh, I'm going to drink some caffeine." Well, I'm tired. And if you continue to be tired throughout the day and you continue to need caffeine, you're using adrenaline to live. And eventually you're going to run out of adrenaline. Right. And another warning sign is if I were to guide you through a guided meditation, and usually mine are pretty short. So falling asleep during that is falling asleep fairly quickly. That means, or you get super tired from the meditation. Again, that's telling you that you're functioning on adrenaline, not on true energy. So you're verging towards losing that wiggle room, because we want to have vitality. There's a difference between, having energy and having vitality. And so as we lose vitality, we're losing that energy that's coming from our adrenal glands because they're constantly in use. Adrenal fatigue, oftentimes people actually have a problem with sleeping because their cortisol now, the adrenal glands produce cortisol, and we have a circadian rhythm for cortisol where it peaks in the morning, goes down in the evening, and it's off. So your cortisol levels are high at the wrong times, keeping you from being able to sleep. And so that's where we start seeing that neurodysregulation, neuroimmune dysregulation, because we don't have that cortisol telling things to stop or wanting things to go. And then, there's kind of a little bit of mayhem. So you oftentimes have brain fog, memory loss. You can't think very clearly. Like I said, you're quite fatigued. You might have all different other kinds of symptoms with your metabolism or weight, cravings. You're hungry all the time. And other times you might not be hungry at all. Just completely lost your appetite, but you're not losing weight. So there's all different kinds of symptoms that might arise. And also irritable. You're quite irritable.
Is it's common though in 40 plus, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
very common.
Do you think that there are supplements that can help?
Oh yeah, I'm taking them right now.
Share, please. What do you like?
Well, I think, look, it all really, I think it's very individualized.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I find is, when I'm working with my clients or just on myself, is I find that some things might work, some things might not. Now, it also depends on how you metabolize your supplements. If you have the cheat gene, if you have the different variations of methylation, your ability to methylate. So that's going to make you more sensitive to things and not sensitive to other things. So it really depends on your system. So, like, I found that things that help you metabolize insulin are going to be helpful, because with the neurodysregulation and the hormonal dysfunction, you'll have problems with insulin and how you metabolize sugar. So, inositol is actually a good one to go, looking at your B vitamins, which B vitamins you might be needing, B6 or B12. Oftentimes people would benefit from having some B12 with or without folic acid or methylfolate. Sometimes most people need to be on some type of probiotic because a lot of these problems are from the gut. So most people have issues, and it's related to the gut, because the gut is 95% of your gut is serotonin, and it's mostly in a nervous system organ. So what we eat and how we metabolize and how we defend, it comes, and how we think, it's all coming from our secondary brain, our gut. So getting on a good probiotic, prebiotics, omega-3s, those are the usuals, vitamin D, making sure that level is okay. So those are just sort of the baseline ones to make sure that you're on. And then everything else, we start sort of saying, okay, what else would you benefit from? Are there other types of adrenal support that would be possible? Like for some people, Siberian ginseng is really good, or licorice root. For me, it isn't, because I'm too sensitive to it. It just, it just depends on the person. You have to really examine what their other symptoms are and their sensitivities.
As a medical doctor, are you big on let's blood test and do, like a GI map and tests like that? Or do you go more on symptoms? Are you
Yeah,
just a
well,
mix?
I don't practice anymore. I haven't practiced since 2019. I'm really just in the coaching world. So I will look over people's blood work. I think it's oftentimes useful, not always necessary. So, but if we are thinking there's a thyroid issue going on, which oftentimes is being affected by all these other things, then I recommend like a sort of baseline blood work for sure. I'm not, I don't go sort of deeply into every single thing that most functional medicine doctors do, again, because I'm just not really practicing. But mostly I go according to symptoms and I start with less is more. I don't like to throw a lot of things on people, and we start with nutrition.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about resilience. We talk a lot in this podcast about cutting down on stress, but we need to also build up resilience. Talk to me about how they play hand in hand.
Yeah. So, um, first of all, I mean, I think it's important important to remember that when people say, "Well, I need to get rid of the stress in my life," well, that would be nice. But unfortunately, life is just always going to throw us curveballs. It's just the way it is, politically, environmentally, economically, socially, whatever it may be. It's always going to be there. That's part of living in this on this earth. Having said that, we want to also remember that the body is designed to manage these things. We're integrally designed to be able to handle stress. And all that stress means is that there's an imbalance to a balanced system. That's it. That's all stress is. It's not negative. Hunger is a stress. Being uncomfortable in your position that you're sitting in right now and is a stress. Being cold is a stress. Anytime that there is a change to a steady state, what we call homeostasis, it's called stress. That's all it is. And the body is designed with its sensory systems, with our eyes, our ears, our sense of smell, what have you, our gut, to alert the brain that there's a problem. And then the brain looks at its database and says, oh, okay, this is what I normally do when I see this issue happening. And okay, and then it will motivate an action. So like your butt will signal to the brain that it's starting to get uncomfortable. And so the brain will then trigger your muscles to move. Okay. So, or your blood sugar drops and it creates a stress response and physiological changes, which create a sense of hunger. So that sense of hunger then gets picked up by your brain. Your brain goes, oh, I know that feeling. It means I need food. And then it will drive the action that will have you go get food. So the way it works is we're sort of sitting pretty, and then something goes off. And then our senses will alert the brain that something's off. And the brain then will motivate the action that will do something about it. You do something about it, and the system comes back down to level. So it looks like that. That would be ideal. So that's just life. Again, we are designed to adapt to stress. That's how we're designed. However, the problem is not the stress, therefore. The problem is whether or not we've solved the problem. Because if we don't solve the problem, it continues to be a problem. I can't find a comfortable position. I can't get food. So now that becomes a problem. My life is now getting threatened. Either my muscles are going to atrophy because I can't move, or I can't get food, so I'm going to starve. So now, not only is that a problem, because I'm a human and not a zebra, because Polsky wrote a book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and they don't anticipate the future. Now I'm anticipating the future. Oh my God, what if I can't get food? Oh my God, what if I can't get a comfortable position? So now my brain's going, I'm being chased by a lion. I'm being chased by a lion. So the fight or flight response is starting to be activated. Okay. So again, the stress hasn't changed, but my perception of it is changing. My perception of it not being manageable now and not being manageable in the future, and what's going to happen now that I can't handle it. So I'm anticipating it and going to the past and saying, now that my negative emotions are being activated, my emotions are pulling me back to my memory of every time in the past I felt the same way. And it's becoming exponential. So now a stress that started at a level here of intensity is now up to here. Okay. And so what that means now is that what we call an allostatic load. So what's allostasis is the ability to achieve stability through change, right? So when I said we do this, that's allostasis. Is a problem arises, I take care of the problem, I come back down to normal. That's allostasis. But if I can't solve that problem, then it's up here, that becomes a load. So that means my heart rate's up all the time, my blood pressure's up all the time, my muscles are tense all the time, my immune system is revved up all the time, my digestive system is messed up all the time, my body's breaking its resources down all the time because that's part of the fight or flight response. My serotonin levels are dropping. My brain isn't working because it's not a good time to do your taxes or you're being chased by a lion. I'm not sleeping because adrenaline is coursing through my vein. So those physiological changes are normal in the short term. But if they continue, they become a load, and then the system starts breaking down. and our ability to think clearly and our ability to be open and communicative and social. Those all drop because oxytocin levels drop, which is our love hormone, because my load is so high. And eventually, the system can only take so much and they get sick. So, resilience, which is our ability to bounce back into original form after experiencing adversity. It's pliability, flexibility, adaptability. Like a baby falls, they get right back up, no problem. We fall, we break. Okay. So, as we get older, we are oftentimes losing that pliability, flexibility, that bounce back ability.
Interesting. Why is that? Is that a hormonal thing?
Well, it's multiple factorial, telomeres, hormonal, our physical body's getting stiffer, our bones are stiffer.
Yeah.
We don't run around as much. We're not we lose our flexibility. Now we can maintain that for sure. But babies are actually more rubbery. Their bones are
That's
actually
true.
they're not
Yeah.
as we lose a lot of our minerals and that's sort of the when we look at in heart rate variability.
Yes. Oh, goodness. That's a big topic for me.
Right, but that's pliability, flexibility, right?
Yeah.
The larger that curve, the better the variability as opposed to a flat line. So we know that successful aging comes with the ability to look. If we look at your portfolio, your stock portfolio, you're better with variability. Okay, so this is just it's a the ecosystem. It's better with variability. So when we're doing one thing all the time and we're walking the same way or exercising the way or eating the same way, that creates stiffness or thinking the same way that becomes rigidity. And with rigidity, we don't have adaptability. And as we lose adaptability, we lose resilience. So resilience is something that is a continuum. Everyone's resilient. Okay. It's not like some people are resilient, everybody is resilient. It's how elevated your resilience is. It's a continuum. So it looks like a bell shaped curve. So on this end, we sort of are in the middle. On this side, we've got burnout. On this side, we have flourishing. So I hope that most of us or all of us want to be on the flourishing side and not
Absolutely, we do.
burnout sickness size, but most people are actually over here. Just one little thing's gonna right? So what stress has to do with it is when we change the way we perceive stress and we change our ability to say, wait a minute, I got this, or this doesn't control me, or just because I don't have food now does not mean I don't have food in the future. To be able to be in a place of self-awareness and mindfulness, to be able to then maneuver through these stressors like a Zen master, that's what's going to allow us to stay flexible and pliable. Like, again, from we look at Tai Chi or Qigong and how they move through life. It's not that they don't have stress, they're just able to move with it in flow. So that's for me where resilience and stress intersect.
So, from listening to you, it would seem that part of how you build this resilience and this adaptability and flow through life as we age is by changing things up, not staying, oh, I've always been like this and I always do this and I always eat this and I always sleep like this and I always is changing things. Is that true?
Yeah, creating variability. If you think about the microbiome, for instance, which is the beautiful system, the bacteria that lives in your gut, they don't like all the same food. They don't all like the same thing. It's like we don't all like the same foods. So if you're eating the same food all the time, you're only feeding, a few guys and not the others. Okay. So yes, changing things up. One of the things I encourage people to do is like, walk backwards. Or if you take the same route to work every day, take a different one. Change it up. It helps if you don't use it, you lose it in the brain. If you're not using the different muscle groups, those neurons aren't feeding the cells in your brain that need to be active. So as you do different things, it opens up your neurons in your brain and allows for neuroplasticity.
I always encourage people to, especially this time of year, because summer and there's more fruits and vegetable. Go to the store, go to the farmer's market, add in one that you don't usually use. You eat every single week. Like I love broccoli and spinach, and those are my go-tos. But I added fennel the other day because it was fresh. So picking up something else at the grocery store. I wonder if this is part of the reason why oftentimes we say we go on vacation and are completely out of what we usually do and we lose weight or things like that. You sleep better.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many different reasons for that, but I do think
Yeah.
there is certainly a big piece of it. We're not in our rote, stressed selves
Yeah.
in our worried self. You look to the brain, a worry is the same as being chased by a lion. It's a
Yeah.
stress it can't manage. So, when we get back into everyday life, it's like we get in our to-dos. I got to do this. I got to do that. I could do that. When we're on vacation, we're in a state of mindfulness. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you're eating or what you're doing. It's that you're fully present. You're in the moment, fully present and mindful of the now as opposed to tomorrow or yesterday, which in itself is changing things. It's creating more openness as opposed to rigidity.
And you're probably more grateful
Exactly.
and showing yourself more love and others more love, which all
Exactly.
goes back to the number one thing that we've talked about since the very beginning, that the response to stress needs to be love.
And starting with self-love, because the first thing we'll do is beat ourselves up.
So true.
I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Why did you do that? I can't believe this. You're such an idiot. Why does this happen to me?
I heard you say, either speaking or on a podcast, that resilience can make you lonely. Talk to me about that.
Well, I think that it depends. True resilience, when you have elevated resilience, you're not, because part of the I'll just to back up. I break up the work when I'm working with people into 6 pillars of resilience. The first pillar being physical vitality, which we've touched upon. The second pillar being our mindset, opportunity mindset, the grit, to be able to like look at things with adaptability, flexibility, and with the belief system that I've got this, or there's an opportunity here for growth and learning. The third one is our emotions, and to be able to regulate those emotions to be in a more positive state. And the fourth one is relationships. So building communities, relationships where we know that we can support others and they can support us. And then the last one is also connection, which is our spiritual connection. And and that's the fifth one. And the sixth one is knowing our impact on others so that we aren't actually alone. So as our resilience is elevated, our ability to feel connected to ourselves, to others, and to something greater than is also elevated. So we're no longer, we might be alone, but we're not lonely. But in that process, as we start changing and other people that we may know are not changing with us, it can become lonelier, right? In sort of that in between. Like I said, once you're there, once you're in a place of elevation, you've got it, right? You know you're not alone, whether you know you're not alone spiritually or socially or on your own, because you feel connected. So there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You're not lonely. But as in the journey, as you change and your habits change and your self-awareness change, you start looking around and saying, this is not fuel. This person is not fueling me to be at my best. And you find yourself withdrawing from a lot of people who normally you spend time with. And you're finding that spending time with them just isn't serving you anymore, and it's not elevating you to a higher level. So it could be a time where you are, you don't have that support. Now, the other pieces is for leaders. For leaders, it can get quite lonely because they're leading, they're in charge. And who do they talk to?
Right.
Part of, again, the process of resilience is having support, having social support, having people you can rely on who also rely on you. And so in that process of taking on a leadership role, of having other people be guided by you, it can again get lonely unless you elevate that part that enables you to feel connected.
Wow, it's great. Because I think and that leader part is very, very true. When you're the top of the food chain, it's like, where do I go?
Yeah, who do I talk to? That's
Right.
where that's where we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when you get a coach. But that also leads us to the spirituality piece. Because if you have a connection to your higher power, and on this podcast, because it is a Christian podcast, it is Jesus, it is the Lord, it is God, it is the Trinity, but it could be somebody else for you. It could be something else for you. That's where you can fill that as well. Talk to us about the spirituality part.
Absolutely. Well, I do feel it's interestingly, I find that that's the most important.
Yeah, me too.
I talk about the love pyramid, social love, self-love, spiritual love. And spiritual love allows us to transcend all. Why? Because when I know that I'm loved by something greater than, when I know that I'm connected to something greater than, when I feel like there is a sense of purpose and a sense of connection to something greater than, everything else transcends. Then I can feel lucky. I get to feel lucky that I get to be here. I get to feel seen. I get to feel compassionate towards others. I get to feel more appreciative of nature and what it's provided for me and with me so that I'm taking better care of myself. So people who have a greater sense of spirituality are healthier and are more optimistic, which invariably means more resilient.
I think of it this way. Often I'll be working with people and I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed. It's not in me. I just want to crawl up in a hole and die. I'm, tired. And oftentimes they're facing huge hurdles, deaths of loved ones, diagnoses, things that are horrible. And my answer is always, you're right. You can't, but God in you can.
Uh,
This is when you have to go back to your connection to your higher power and believe that the Lord in you will give you the strength to shine through you.
that's right. That's right. And that's the whole notion of a purpose and passion, right? To be
Hmm.
impassioned and to feel purpose. And that comes from something, again, greater than that can drive you and that can be within you and around you. And also, when you have that belief system, it connects you to other people who have that belief
Yeah,
system.
that's true.
There comes your community.
Yeah. How do people get started? How do people start to relieve their stress through love, connection, spirituality?
Very simple. It's called breath. The first step. Well, first of all, what I love Christine Neff's self-compassion break. And what it does is just says, let me just take a moment to have some self-compassion for my humanness. I didn't do anything wrong, right? I'm existing. I am like everyone else out there. It's understanding that she calls it shared humanity, that when I'm going through, somebody else is going through. And we forget that. We think when we're going through something, it's just me. And why me? And it's sort of changing that question to why not me and saying, I'm human. So, you put a hand on your heart or two, or one on your belly and your heart, and you say, I recognize my suffering. I recognize it. I am honoring my humanity. I'm honoring that I'm suffering right now, and this is part of my humanity, that others are going through the same thing. And you talk to yourself as if you would talk to your best friend or to a child, right? You don't admonish them, you don't beat them up as we do to ourselves. You say, I get it. This is hard. I get it. And just taking a moment to have a lot of compassion for what you're going through. And you say, I wish for myself, just like you wish for your best friend, I wish for you love. I wish for me love. And I wish for me good health. And I wish for me ease. Those are the things I wish for me. And just taking a moment to really have that compassion for yourself changes the dial. It starts changing how you do things. And then you can just, again, take a deep breath in and just inhale the breath life and exhale. I'm just going to just let everything out into the earth. Mother Earth, just hold everything for me right now. And just let it all kind of drain out. And inhale the breath of life from God, from whatever you believe in. Exhale, Mother Earth, I'm just letting you take care of everything. And that's going to now quiet the stress response. Between the self-compassion, which is love, and the breathing, you're starting to create stress response regulation, lowering that stress response, creating a place of ease. And you're also going to now be able to look at a situation more clearly because your emotions are being downregulated.
It's that, people tell you when you're upset, take a deep breath, which never helps when you tell somebody that. But if you can figure out how to do it as the doctor is talking about it in a different way, it actually does help.
Exactly. I just makes me crazy. Just breathe.
Oh gosh.
And I've done that in the groups when I say, okay, just breathe. And it makes people not
Yeah.
breathe.
Right.
But that's why I created this. So I have and it's available on YouTube. It's a meditation. It's a technique I created almost 20 years ago, which has helped thousands of people. It's called the Shield. And it's what it is. It's a mnemonic. Slow down, honor, inhale. Don't forget to exhale, listen, decide. And it's also a visualization. And what it does is it allows you to take a pause to imagine light from the heavens above shining down. They're shining down upon you, so they're creating a shield. So this light comes down and creates a shield all around you. So that allows you to slow down and just honor the way you feel, like we just did that self-compassion break. And then inhale deeply and exhale completely. Just allow yourself to just breathe those nice deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. So I spelled it out. Inhale deeply, exhale completely, and allow the system to quiet so that you can listen. What's going on here? In what way am I being triggered? In what way am I feeling that I'm not enough? What is it that I can do to change that? What is it that I need? Right? Just like we would with a child or a friend. Like, going into inquiry. This isn't about what's going on out there. It's going about what's going on in here. And then decide is making a decision to take care. Deciding is to decide to believe in God. My decision to connect to something greater than. So I usually use a phrase, I am enough, I have enough, I have all that I need, come what may, I have all that I need, to change that mindset of I'm a victim to I've got this. And as we say that, the light actually comes through. It's not only just around us, it starts going into the mind and into the entire body and opening the heart and connecting us to everything. So it's a really beautiful technique in meditation, and it's available on my YouTube.
I
So
love that.
it sort of combines everything together in one.
How long does it take? How long do you need to do it?
Like 8 minutes.
That's great.
And you can do it. The thing about this is the more you practice it as a meditation, the more you can just use it in everyday life, and you just go shield, you call it your shield, the feelings are shield. The light just comes down, you go, I have enough, I have enough. And you'll find that those changes that occurred during the meditation will occur in the moment, just right there.
Yeah, it's how your body and your brain remembers. So if you practice it enough, you can get yourself back into that state quicker.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, especially when if you're dealing with other people, it shifts the situation.
Mm.
Your energy changes, everything around you changes. And so, I've been able to dissipate arguments very quickly. Someone who gets angry at me or whatever, it's right away, it de-escalates.
That's amazing. A big fan of meditation and breath work, and it sounds like you are too. And what amazes me and that I love so much about you is that, again, medical doctor who is now seeing how important the spiritual, the relational, the emotional, the mental is in your physical body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really, look, we are a dynamic system that is physical. We are a physical body that's living here on this earth, and with the sensory perception. So we have become thinkers rather than beers. We've become human thinkings rather than human beings, or human doings rather than human beings. And this we want to do is start getting back to the beings who are happen to be human, and to get reconnected with the body, because you are in a physical body right now. You are a spiritual being. However, you're a spiritual being in a physical form. And so we're very disconnected from that physical form. And so this is what allows us to get reconnected through spirituality, through meditation, through breath work, get connected with, what does my body need? What does this body want? How does this body, going to thrive? It might need different people in my life. It might need different foods in my life. It might need, more time in nature. But we don't know what you need because you haven't been connected.
So, so true. What in your life are some non negotiable health practices, whether they be emotional, physical, spiritual, anything?
Oh, I got a lot of them.
Give me a couple.
Got a lot. Well, first of all, my mornings are mine.
Good.
Mornings are mine. Mornings are mine for my luxuriating with my rituals, which are my meditation practice, my exercise, even like how I eat my breakfast, which is really mindful and slow, and I luxuriate in it because the rest of the day can just get ahead of me.
It's so funny you said that because recently I have started, I push all my meetings and recordings back so that I have those mornings have always been important to me. But before it was like, okay, I'm up at 4 a.m. to get those mornings. And now it's like, you know what? I'm gonna push the clock a little bit. And I'm also the most creative in the morning. Are you like that or are you a night person?
No, no, I'm down at night.
Yeah,
I'm
me
done.
too.
My brain's like, I'm done. And the other thing for me is I can be creative anytime, but the problem for me is if I start working or creating at night, then I won't sleep, because it surges my adrenaline, and then the adrenaline will keep me from sleeping. So for me, my sleep hygiene is non-negotiable, because I could go for days without sleeping. That's my physiological type. I'm just alert. I'm downloading. I'm creating. Oh, that's so cool. That's so interesting. And then I would never, never, never sleep. For that big non-negotiable for me is waking up the same time, going to bed. And okay, so maybe I'm more of a boring person, and it's not that I don't not do that. It's just that when I do that, I'm happier.
Yeah. And is there anything specific in that night routine?
Yeah, well, it's everything off, a couple hours before.
Mhm.
No news,
No.
no social media, none of that stuff. And yeah, I usually take a nice bath, saltwater bath, to just get myself relaxed, unless I'm traveling. That gets a little bit more challenging. I'll do usually some short meditation before going to bed, maybe do some reading. Yeah, just lights off and no, everything's quiet, has to be quiet and dark. And my bedroom, it doesn't get used for anything other than sleep.
Yeah, that's a big one. Because once again, your brain can start looking at that room and that bed and be like, oh, here's where we go to work or to ruminate and no, this is where we go to rest.
Exactly. Again, for me, sleep has been an issue my entire life. So it's something that I had to do, but also doing it because I'm happier. And I
Yeah.
think that's sort of the gauge as people say, oh, I should do this. There's nothing you should do. And there's nothing you have to do. It's a question of how happy and vital and thriving you want to be. So use that as the gauge. How do I feel when I do this? Well, I have so much more energy. You might want to do that more often. So there's nothing you should do. There's no rules. It's more of a matter of how do I want to feel? How does this support me to feel? And do I want to thrive or do I want to dive?
So, any other non-negotiable?
Oh, well, I have to move every day. Not necessarily not do what I maybe used to do. I used to be like a big CrossFitter, so I'm not doing as much of that now, but I do need to move every day. That's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable.
Very, very good. What about supplements? Are there any supplements? And we talked about it a little bit. It's very bio individual. And I always warn people, even though I do it on Instagram, to not be like, oh, that person's taking that. I'm going to take that. You really, really have to work with a coach. But are there things that you think that the majority of the people that you see are deficient in and we need to figure out how to get it into them some
Yeah,
way?
and I think these are where you wanna get tested. So get
Yeah,
your vitamin D levels tested.
for sure.
So those tend to be pretty low in most individuals, so would be something, and you're probably safe taking at least 1,000 IUs a day anyway, and you
Yeah,
might need more. That's why
right.
you'd wanna get tested. The other thing, especially when you're either taking hormones, you're going through perimenopause, your blood levels might be low, and it would, you might benefit from that, so getting those checked and maybe taking some type of supplement. You might wanna check to see what kind of, whether you have the COMT gene mutation. That means whether and how you methylate things. But in general, what I generally recommend for everybody is omega-3 fatty acids. We know unless you're on blood thinners, there's no reason that you can't be on those usually because most people do not usually get enough omega-3s in their diet. We get a lot of omega-6, but we don't get a lot of omega-3. The omega-6 to omega-3 is 1 to 1, but most people are doing 20 to 1, which is creating more inflammation. So trying to remove trans fats out of your diet, which means
Absolutely.
no processed foods, but also adding in some omega-3 fatty acids is usually going to be pretty beneficial for most people. Magnesium. So whether you're getting the citrate or glycinate. Like, for instance, if you want help sleep, I would take the glycinate, taking magnesium glycinate at night. It's a wonderful relaxant. It helps the brain, helps the body heal. You might be needing more electrolytes depending on whether or not you're getting enough potassium-rich foods in your diet, which many people don't, improving that fiber. So I like to look at people's diets and see what they're doing and what they're not.
Absolutely.
They need
First.
supplements for that. But like I said, in general, most people benefit from omega-3s, vitamin D, magnesium, and a probiotic.
If you have that COMT gene, does that mean that it would be better for you to do like injections of B12?
No, no, you just need to have methylcobalamin or a methylated forms like methylfolates and
Okay.
things.
All right, great. And what's one thing that you think everybody can do today to help reduce their bad stress or their allostatic load?
Really, I mean, it's sort of like practice mindfulness. So it's like, let's say you don't want to breathe. So slow it down.
Which sounds funny, right?
Yeah. That's really
But we do. We're going so fast and we're rushing and we're hurrying. Our shoulders are up here and we're holding our breath.
So take a moment to here's easy. Take a mindful shower or eat mindfully. What does that mean? It means engaging all my senses in the experience of being right now without judgment. So non-judgmental moment to moment awareness. A wonderful book, The Power of Now. Read it. No, Eckhart Tolle. It's
Yeah.
how to be in the now. Easy way to do it is with your everyday activities. If you don't have time to go and meditate or go for a walk, which I highly recommend, spend time out in nature. If you can't do that, then do it with food, right? Because you can create a very colorful plate and appreciate it. Appreciate the colors, appreciate the aromas, appreciate the textures. And you think about the people who grew the food, who grew grew these fruits and did all the work to bring the food to you, and so you're in a place of gratitude and appreciation. And you're luxuriating in how lucky you are to be getting to eat. So you could do that with your shower. You could do that. I do that when I wake up in the morning. I just lie there for a couple minutes. I go, God, this comforter feels so good. And then, and I slowly get out of bed and just really appreciate the feeling of my feet on the ground and my feet connected to the earth. So the combination of appreciation and gratitude with being fully present will stop that cycle really quickly and put you in a better place.
You called it a mindfulness shower? I love it. I love it. Because I think I'm writing it down. I think a lot of people do think meditation and breathing and they're like, I have got no time and I'm not good at it. So how can you work it into the things that you do every day? And I love the idea of around food because that's something we all do. And also oftentimes we're doing 5 other things while we're eating.
That's right. So just being present and bringing in the notion of luck, right? Because when we're in that stress mode, in overstress mode, where our brain thinks we're victims. So going to God, I'm so lucky to be eating this. This is so good,
That's
right?
great.
And God, this the warmth, this how does it feel in my, I had some a concoction today that I made with oats and flax and chia seeds and what else did I throw in there? I threw in some this good culture cottage cheese, which I just love. I used to
My
not
gosh,
like.
you and I might be semi the same person. As I'm hearing you talking, even before you got to what you're eating, I was thinking about, I can't wait because I'm going to have my oats and millet. And then the kind of cottage cheese that I have in the refrigerator is the good.
And then I like threw an egg in there and it was just so
So
good.
good.
It was
Mixing
so good.
that cottage cheese with an egg, if you scramble it or just make, oh my goodness, it's heaven.
I didn't I had to put any salt or anything. It had
Nope.
everything there and had all like my nutrients and fiber. Oh, and I found these the puffed quinoa
Mm-hmm.
and I put a little tablespoon of that. It was got a little crunch. And I just like there was so many textures and crunches and I just had so much fun eating it.
Me too. I'm literally so excited because I get to as well. And it's interesting.
So that's what I mean is, or you could throw some berries in there or whatever you do. It's like, so your plate is more colorful, but it was just allowing yourself to be excited about something super small will changes the tone and brings that load down.
So great. I love it. Can't wait to go do that. Everybody go do that, whether you're breakfast, lunch, whatever it is. And you should love every bite that you put in your mouth. We talk a lot, and we didn't in this episode, but in general, and we both work with our clients on nutrition and really eating whole foods quality soil. But you should love it. You shouldn't be forcing anything down that you don't love.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, and also there's a lot of people, well, what if I love Oreos? Well, that's okay. Again, I mean, you love Oreos and recognize what's in them. And it's not fuel, by the way, because of the trans fats are not digested by the microbiome. They are just, you're basically starving your gut. That's okay. It tastes good, but just remember, it's just not fuel. It's like putting vegetable oil in your car versus high octane fuel. That's fine. You can do that every now and then because you're enjoying it. Do it slowly though, and do it mindfully and enjoy every bite. Like do it like, oh my God. You'll find that when you start doing the 80-20 or 90-10, 80% clean, 20% the heck you want, that when you do have that 20%, you're like, oh, that tastes like plastic. Because your senses are going to start waking up. So one of the things is that people who eat a lot of processed food and who aren't paying attention aren't even noticing that something doesn't actually even taste that great. If you compare, chocolates, if you compare like American chocolate to let's say European chocolate, and you just close your eyes and you just eat it slowly, you can realize, oh my God, this tastes like sugar and plastic. And then you may not want it again.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't advocate one way or another to people. I just say, give it a try and do it slowly and do it mindfully, do it with appreciation and try to pick up the nuances with your senses of what you're actually eating because you will pick up the plastic, you will pick up the processed stuff, and you may not be as excited to eat it again, or you might still want to eat it, which is again totally fine, up to you, but be mindful about it.
Also, your taste buds and your taste will change as you start to remove the preservatives and especially the sugar. Like I can eat something that has sugar in it. And then I have a girlfriend who is like just sugar, sugar, sugar all the time. And I can be like, oh my goodness, that's so sweet. And she's like, that doesn't taste sweet at all because she's so used to so much more sugar. And once you start to remove that, you'll appreciate all the different tastes and things that are more
That's right.
natural.
Muted. When we get used to things, we mute. Well, psychologically attuned to something, your body isn't used to it. You're psychologically attuning.
Yes, that's true.
Your body still sees it as a threat and a stress
Yeah, it's not good.
and it's inflamed. But we even like noise, your body sees it as pollution and is reacting to it. Your brain is like, yeah, I don't care about noise. I'm cool with it. So we adapt to something, but it's not necessarily beneficial for our health.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's been a remarkable conversation. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, drselhub.com, and I'm on pretty much, I think, all the social media outlets.
She has a plethora of books. Honestly, go find them, read them.
I also have a program that's called Foundations of Mastering Resilience. It's a 10-week DIY program that will be hosted on Learn Worlds, and it will come with videos and audio and workbooks and appendices and quizzes and self-assessments. It's pretty intensive, and I'm excited about its launch.
Lovely. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And please do go find Dr. Selhub. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great. Really fun.
Coming up on the next episode of StRest, we have Mary Beth Rowe. If you are a QVC fan, you know her from 38 years, as we like to call her, the queen of QVC. She recently retired earlier this year, and we're going to talk to her about really those transitions in life and deciding and trusting the Lord. We're also going to talk about faith on national television, because her and I were two of the hosts who really were able to speak our faith out loud and what that was like. Also, the demands of the job. You're going to get quite the inside look at what it's like to go from age 28 into your 60s in a job that really is very physical, and how it changed. We're going to catch up with her and her life. But I will tell you, this episode, there was a lot going on with the devil not wanting us to have it happen. So the episode actually stops in the middle. You'll have to tune in and see what happens. That's on the next episode of StRest. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kerstin.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.Kerstin-Lindquist.com to sign up for our newsletter and receive exclusive content. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition. The host of this podcast is a certified health coach and medical researcher, not a licensed medical professional, and the content shared does not constitute medical advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we encourage you to do your own research and consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare treatment plans. Thank you for joining me on this journey to reduce stress and make room for rest. Remember, you're not alone. Keep coming back, share your story, ask for help, and give yourself grace.